This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you been thinking about therapy? Have you been trying to get in to see a therapist? Have you found that a lot of therapists that you've been recommended to have either closed books or they've got a really long waiting list? Sometimes months. If you're lucky, it's a couple of weeks. Now, what if there was an alternative that gave you quicker access and at your convenience? So when starting to think about looking for a therapist, try BetterHelp. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient and flexible to your schedule needs. So just fill out the brief questionnaire and get matched with a registered therapist. You can also switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So get moving with therapy and visit BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/Gunter today will give you 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Gunter, GUNTER.
Listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspire Change with Gunter. I'm your host. In the last podcast, I introduced it as doing something a little different, which was basically an introduction to a new edition of Making Good Men Great, Surfing a New Masculinity. And we're going to continue with that theme about doing something a little different. So in this particular podcast, I'm going to ask you to participate in an intimate and profound exercise that I frequently use with people in therapy and sometimes just in coaching. And it's aimed at self-discovery and personal growth. And that exercise is the Chronological Life Review. So before we go on, let me just make a little bit of a trigger warning. This podcast includes an overview of an exercise that may include personal trauma, pain, and potentially distressing life events. If you find these topics triggering, please consider listening with a support system or person in place, or seek professional help if you need it. Okay? So just keep that in mind as we continue. So one of the things that I often talk about as an introduction to us men and our process of change is that if there is a particular battle cry for us as men, then it's this. And that is that we need to face our pain and illuminate the darkness that stems from it. Now, facing our pain is a challenging but necessary journey. If we don't allow ourselves to heal, we may wound others along the way. So let's begin to explore the Chronological Life Review exercise, because it helps us to confront and understand our past experience, shedding light on how they've shaped our identities and our lives. And it's not just us on our own, because all those who come within close contact and connection with us will be impacted as well. So as I said, the Chronological Life Review is designed to help us reflect on significant life experiences. But it's more than that. It's about understanding the impact and how to gain insights into our own psyche, our own personal development. The exercise requires us to create a timeline of our lives, which is divided into key stages. and reflect deeply on each phase. So we've got to put ourselves into a space where we can actually sit and reflect. So, how do you create your timeline? Well, firstly, I want you to find a quiet, comfortable space where you can reflect without any interruptions. So, let's get it up front. It's a digital free zone. Have a pen and paper or whatever it is that you need to write with ready. Draw a horizontal line across the sheet of paper and then label the beginning as your birth and the end as the present day. Now divide this timeline into significant stages of your life. And here are the most common stages you might want to consider. So let's talk early childhood, which is 0 to 5 years. Then we talk about childhood, 6 to 12 years. Adolescence, 13 to 18 years. Young adulthood, 19 to 30 years. Adulthood, 31 to 50 years. And then finally, later adulthood, 51 and more years. Now, if you feel that you need to adjust them, don't overthink it, do it to your own personal experience. But I would use those stages because they fit in with most of the psychological literature. So the next part of this is to begin to reflect on each stage. And I'm going to give you some prompts for each stage. And I want you to write down your thoughts and memories. So let's go to early childhood, 0 to 5. Ask yourself, what are your earliest memories? Who were the significant people in your life? And how did these experiences shape your sense of safety and trust? Now, let's go to the next stage. It's childhood, 6 to 12 years. Think about what your key achievements and challenges were during this time. How did you interact with peers and adults? What did you enjoy doing most in those years? Now, again, take your time in your reflection and introspection. Let's go to adolescence, 13 to 18 years. And these can be, for a lot of people, pretty bumpy. Some people, however, are blessed and they just roll through adolescence with very few issues. However, I dare say that that's a very, very, very small minority. So in your adolescence, what major events or transitions occurred? How did you perceive yourself and your identity? And also, what were your hopes and fears for the future? Let's head into young adulthood, 19 to 30 years. During those years, what were your significant milestones? Okay, education, career, relationships. Now, in that period, I often talk about, 27 to 32, because I seem to get a lot of clients in that particular era where their milestones are either changing or have been disrupted in education, career, or in relationships. Also think about, how did your goals and values evolve? And what challenges did you face and how did you overcome them? Now let's slide into adulthood, 31 to 50 years. So how did your personal and professional life develop? What have been your greatest accomplishments and disappointments? Have your relationships and your priorities changed? And if so, how? Now let's head into later adulthood, 51 plus. Now some of you doing this exercise will have cut off at any one of those stages, but I want to take it further because, there's obviously a lot of you guys in the audience who are 51 years old and older, okay? So in that phase, what are the significant life events and experience in this stage? How do you view your legacy and contributions? And what are your current aspirations and reflections? Now, as I said, give yourself time to do this. This may take a few days or even maybe a week or so to really flesh it out. But in the process, the next stage is to identify themes and patterns. So review your timeline and the reflections that come with it. Look for recurring themes. Are there recurring patterns? Are there similar turning points in the phase, or are they very different? So think about the following questions. What experience had the most profound impact on you? And how have you grown and changed over time? What strengths and qualities have helped you to navigate life's challenges? So, in processing this, the next stage is really trying to integrate these insights. So, that means looking at how these experiences have shaped your current self and how you relate to the world. Write a brief summary of your key insights and how you plan to use these to understand how to move forward, how to stimulate your personal growth and your future aspirations. Now, remember, we can still do this if we're 75, 80 years old. I know some pretty dynamic 80-year-olds. So, this is the exercise. Now, let me talk a little bit about why this has some significance. The life review exercise holds profound significance for men, especially within the context of making good men great. This exercise not only serves as a tool for self-reflection, but also plays a crucial role in challenging and redefining traditional concepts about masculinity. So let me break that down into a couple categories. So the first one, obviously, is facing and understanding pain. Now, that may include physical pain. I'm not just talking about psychological pain. Because as men, we're socialized to suppress our emotions and avoid discussing our pain. This exercise encourages us as men to confront our past experiences, both positive and negative, and understand the impact that these events have had on our lives rather than just trying to confine ourselves within the present and understand ourselves within that present. We cannot understand ourselves fully unless we review our history. There's an old saying, if we don't learn from history, we're bound to repeat it. And that absolutely applies in this context as well. Now, in doing so, we're shining a light onto the different life stages that we've had and therefore illuminate the darkness that sits there. By acknowledging and understanding these patterns, we can work towards being able to break the negative cycles and fostering a positive change for ourselves and those that we're close to. It's also important because it gives us an opportunity to reimagine our masculinity. And I talk often about masculinities because there's no one size fits all. Because that's the part of the problem that we've been dealing with, is that we've been trying to squeeze ourselves into one idea, one ideal, one ideology. Traditional masculinity often emphasizes characteristics like, stoicism, competition, and dominance. Now, there's a positive aspect to stoicism, but in the context that it's used within traditional masculinity, it's actually a negative thing. In Making Good Men Great, we challenge these notions by promoting self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and empathy and emotional regulation. It aligns with this goal by helping men to understand how social expectations have influenced our identities and encourages them to embrace a more holistic and compassionate version of being a man. In doing so, as I've said, we're looking at developing emotional intelligence, reflecting on different stages, different life stages, and the emotions associated with them enhances our emotional intelligence. As men, we learn to recognize and articulate our feelings. We develop a better vocabulary, an emotional vocabulary. And this improves our ability to connect with others on a deeper level. This increased emotional intelligence is absolutely crucial for building healthy relationships and ultimately supportive networks. Now, let me say a few things about enhancing self-awareness. Self-awareness isn't just going to make you a happy little camper. Actually, often with self-awareness comes more pain, comes more discontent or tension or anxiety. However, in that process, we can begin to regulate and utilize self-awareness in a way that's constructive. So in that context, self-awareness encourages us as men to take a comprehensive look at our journey and at our identity. It helps to see how our past experiences have shaped our current beliefs, our behaviours, our values. It allows us to become more flexible and adaptable as well. So ultimately, it gives us then an opportunity to consider what sort of legacy and what sort of future aspirations we have. This is particularly relevant for men in later adulthood, where, it helps us to assess the impact we have had on our families, our communities, and the world. Now, not everyone wants to be on the global stage. Some of us are quiet achievers. We just do what we need to do with the right values, with the right actions, and with the right heart. And so, for some of us, that allows us to become mentors to younger men, to help them redefining their sense of manhood. So in conclusion, let me stress again, it's more than just a reflective exercise. It's a transformative tool that empowers men to face their past, to understand their present, and to shape their future. So by engaging in this process, we free ourselves from the confines of traditional ideas about what it is to be a man, to have a broader emotional range, and build lives that are rich in connection, authenticity, and purpose. So let me thank you for joining me on this introspective journey through the Chronological Life Review. This is an exercise through which we can derive strength. And remember, always keep in mind that we need to stay introspective, but we also need to look outward as well. But in the most important way, keep illuminating your path. And with that note, until the next time, this is me signing off. Love to hear from you. And if you're interested, please check out my work on www.gunterswoboda.com or www.goodmengreat.com.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit goodmengreat.com. For inquiries regarding broadcast topics or appearing on the show, email Miranda at noirtainment.com. That's Miranda at noirtainment.com.